Welcome, everybody, to this week's edition of Valpo Basketball Weekly. Brandon Vickery with you. Glad to be joined by the head coach of the Valpo basketball program, Matt Laddick. Valpo Basketball Weekly is brought to you by our friends at Lakeshore Bone and Joint Institute. Coach, I want to ask you about some tough news that came across this week when you learned that your starting point guard, Trevor Anderson, is out for the season with a back injury. For a sixth-year senior to see a season end that way, just how tough is that news to handle?
I mean, it's hard. It's hard in a variety of ways. Obviously, it's hard for our team. I mean, Trevor's had some huge games for us. He's been really clutch down the stretch, and his impact in a really short amount of time has been pretty substantial here. And one of the things that that people don't really see, right, is you see the fall, right, and then you have that conversation with the young man afterwards, and just the emotion that goes into what he's going through. And it's not an emotion where it's there were a lot of tears shed. And we're talking about a young man that was the state player of the year in Wisconsin as a senior. When he was in college, had back injury pretty much his entire time, had double hip surgery, had an ACL injury. And I also know the amount of work that he put in to not only be able to perform, but to get back onto the court and to have all that come crashing down. I mean, it's tough, and anyone who's played goes through that experience of, this is the last time I'm gonna lace up my shoes in a competitive environment, and it's never easy, and as a coach, watching that happen to a young man that you care about, it's hard. And so a lot of tears shed that night. But I will tell you that his presence is still going to be felt in the program. He's been great in practice, just being on the sidelines, being encouraging. I mean, we've got two freshman point guards right now. And they're a little baptism by fire for him. I think Trev's going to be a good influence for him for sure.
Hate to stay on the topic of back injuries, but I want to ask you about Thomas Kithier and just what are the challenges of having played without him the last two games, and maybe what can you appreciate about having him on the court now that you've had to play a few games without him?
Yeah, I mean, I think anyone who's followed our team knows how much better we are when he's on the floor. I think you look at us, we beat Northern Iowa at home. He played. We went on the road. We lost pretty substantially. Same here. We didn't play great at Southern Illinois. He wasn't playing. We lost to him here, but again, we had two shots at the buzzer pretty much to beat him. So I do think he is extremely valuable. He quarterbacks, both the offense and the defense. And it just gives us a lot more depth, and you look at just, it kind of feels like we're a little snake bit right now with some of these injuries, and eventually stuff's going to hopefully start going our way. But, we got 6 scholarship guys right now in street clothes. And so that has been a challenge. But again, we got to just, we got to keep plugging forward and for me, the challenge and for the other guys, the challenge, right, is, you might have a different role than you had right now earlier in the year. And, my job is to try to put you in, positions to be successful. And, you've got to have the confidence to go out there and execute and do it. And, it's been a rough 2 games, but, 2 games prior to that, we won 2 in a row. And so hopefully we can, keep plugging forward, keeping our head down, keep working and get healthy in the process and go from there.
One bright spot this week, I thought, was the way Ben Krikke played, 20 points and 9 rebounds in the game at Southern Illinois. Just what have you seen from Ben of late?
Well, I think Ben embodies a lot of what we want in the program, and he definitely has a no excuse attitude. He shows up, and he is a tough young man, and so for him, he had to shoulder a lot of responsibility. I think in that Bradley game at home, he was fantastic, and I know I think we lost by 15, but in the minutes that he was in, we were up by 2, and so the minutes that he was out, we lost pretty substantially. And then I think the same is true yesterday. I mean, he was just really good and pretty consistent. So hopefully we can get his partner back here, Tommy, pretty soon, and get him rolling and get them rolling together. I think we were really starting to establish an identity with them on the court when Tom went down. So but been really pleased with Ben.
Kevion Taylor had maybe a rare week where he didn't shoot the 3 as well, but I wanted to ask you about the long streak that came to an end on Sunday. 84 straight games with a made 3, one of the longest streaks in NCAA history. So what impresses you about that type of streak?
Well, consistency, right? I mean, we ask our guys to be everyday guys and be consistent. And Kev's one of the most consistent players I've been around, puts work in every single day. Sometimes you actually want him like, hey, take a day off, but he doesn't do that. After a tough game yesterday, he ended up going and having a good lift this morning. Was in the gym shooting. And I'm sure I'm going to try to limit his reps in practice today, and he's not going to want to do that. It's just the type of player he is. So I think everything that Kev's about, and especially that consistent approach, is why he's good.
As we record, the schedule's kind of up in the air for this week with Winter Storm coming in on Wednesday, scheduled to play Evansville, and then Indiana State is the opponent on Saturday. Just as you look ahead to this week, what does your team have to do? What are some keys to the week as far as turning things around and getting headed back in the right direction?
Well, I think, number one, we've got to, we can't hang our heads, right? And I think that's, sometimes an easy response for people, right? It hasn't gone our way. We've had a lot of tough blows, but again, we just got to keep moving forward. We can't make excuses. And so, we talked a lot about that in the locker room yesterday. So we got to have some good practices. We got to keep moving forward. And, for us, just looking at kind of, we've got to defend better. And I think, having Tom in there, he protects the paint for us a lot, and he really does quarterback our defense. But we don't have him right now. So, Ben's got to have a bigger voice defensively. We've got to execute a little more tightly because there's not necessarily a guy back there that can cover for us. So we've got to get back to just some of the basics defensively. And then offensively, there were some good stretches, right, where we had some good buckets. I mean, especially to start both halves. I really thought we were scoring the ball consistently. I think, sometimes, right, we can get into modes where, we're getting in the lane and we're trying to make shots, and really the play would probably be land on the 2 feet and spray it and try to find that next guy and keep that domino going. So that's going to be the focus this week in practice. Again, I do expect this team to be consistent with who they've been, show up ready to work and try to get better and have a lot of fun in the process. That's who they've been all, and I'm excited for it.
There he is, the head coach of the Valpo basketball program, Matt Laddick. Again, for all the information on Valpo basketball, you can follow us on social media or visit valpoathletics.com. It's been Valpo Basketball Weekly, and it's brought to you by Lakeshore Bone and Joint Institute.